Hello everyone, and welcome back to the 3.9 video. My apologies that the last one just cut off. So let me do these 4 examples on this video instead. So the first example, secant of theta equals 2. Secant, the reciprocal function, is really cosine, and as I've been saying in class, thinking about sine, cosine, and tangent is usually a little bit easier than thinking in terms of the reciprocal functions. So if secant of theta is 2 over 1 technically, cosine of theta is the reciprocal of 1/2. And so I'm asking what angle is the x value, because cosine really means x, 1/2. So if I go through one revolution of the circle, looks like the x value is positive 1/2 here, not here, not here, and here. These are the 2 examples, we're going all the way around 360 degrees, or 2 pi, that this is true for theta. So theta in radians would either be at pi over 3 or at 5 pi over 3. And in degrees, that would be 60 degrees or 300 degrees. The next example here, cosecant of theta equals 2 root 3 over 3. That means to me that the reciprocal function, sine of theta, would originally be 3 over 2 root 3. But the problem with this is now we have a radical in the denominator. So if I rationalize and multiply top and bottom by root 3, I would get 3 root 3 on the top, and then I would get, now this is interesting down here, root 3 times root 3 is 3, but then we're still multiplying by 2. So this is really 3 root 3 over 6, which 3 divided by 6 gets me a 2 in the denominator. So this is really root 3 over 2. So after all this madness, we really get that the reciprocal is sine of theta is positive root 3 over 2. So if I come back to my unit circle here and say where are my, this time, y values, because y goes with sine, where it is positive root 3 over 2. So we have positive root 3 over here, 2 here at 60 degrees or pi over 3. We also have positive root 3 over 2 for the y value here. And if I scan all the way around, everything else looks like it's negative. So these are my 2 options. So my answers for theta in radians are either pi over 3 or 2 pi over 3. And in degrees, my answers would be 60 degrees, and it would be 120 degrees. So here's my answer for the first one in radians, degrees, radians, degrees. So this next problem, I'm eventually actually going to change this original problem, and here's why. If I look at secant of theta equals 0, or 0 over 1, the reciprocal, cosine of theta, would then really be 1 over 0, which means the cosine of theta is undefined. And the question is there ever a time on the unit circle where the cosine value or the x value is not possible? If you go all the way around, an x value always exists no matter what. So this question is actually rather silly because this answer is not possible. So instead of this example, well, this is still a good one though to show you that sometimes you get problems that lead to silly answers. So in this case, really the answer, this idea is not possible. Let's instead change this problem to be tangent of theta equals 0. So if I see tangent of theta equals 0, that really means to me that the tangent of theta is really 0 over 1. And remember, tangent is really defined as y over x. So this is the place on the unit circle where your y value is 0, where your x value is 1. So again, if we scan the unit circle here and think about, all right, the angles, or the theta, where y is 0 but x is 1. Well, y is 0 and x is 1 here, not here, close, but not here, not here. So it seems like this one only has one answer. The only answer for theta in radians would be 0, and the only answer for theta in degrees would also be 0 degrees. Now, some of you might be wondering, why am I not saying 2 pi and why am I not saying 360? That is because if we say 0 and 360, we're using coterminal angles and we only want to go all the way around the circle once. You might remember from the first slide that 360 here was not included and 2 pi was not included because these are both the same as 0. So in this example, these are my final answers, either 0 without a degree symbol or 0 with a degree symbol. This last example, it says cosecant of theta equals undefined. Now, before you start thinking that this question might be a weird one like this, let's think about the reciprocal function. But even before we do that, I want to talk about what undefined means numerically. If you look back over here, this ended up being undefined because we divided by 0. So in order to get something undefined, that's the only place in math that you get something that's undefined, or at least so far, that if you divide a fraction by 0, that's not possible. So what this means is that the cosecant of theta is really something divided by 0, and usually this something so far in the unit circle is just going to be 1, because 1 unit in every direction. So if the cosecant of theta is 1 over 0, that means that the reciprocal function of sine is really 0 over 1. And more simply, that means the sine of theta is 0 divided by 1, or just 0. So now we're asking ourselves, at what angles is the y value 0? So I already had this one circled from last time, but this is actually very true, because here's the y value of 0, so that works. Y is not 0 here. Y is 0 here, not here. So this time we have two options. In radians, my theta could either be 0 or pi. And in degrees, my theta is either going to be 0 or 180 degrees. And just like this example over here, we're not going to write 360 here, and we're not going to write 2 pi here, because that would be repeating the 0. All right, guys, feel free to ask more questions in class tomorrow. If you want me to re-go over any of these questions, please let me know. Best of luck, and see you then.